Hello, everybody. It is Tom. Welcome back. We're back with another installment of Heartstopper Comics. So, for those of you who follow me on social media or have stopped by the community tab, you will know that this week has been a bit of a challenge. And I do have some words of thanks to offer to the extremely kind and supportive and generous folks in this community, which will come at the end of this video, so stick around. For now, though, we're going to focus on the comics, because that's what we came here to do, and I could use a distraction, and maybe you could too. So, also, I'm sitting on the very edge of my chair, because there's a cat right here. Benny has crawled up behind me. Actually, he stole my chair the second I stood up, and I sat down in front of him rather than disturb him, because he's an old man, and he needs to be comfortable. So, last time, we were on Chapter 4, Section 28 of the comics. And what had just happened... too far. So what had just happened, the gang are in Paris. They climbed to the top of the Eiffel Tower. Charlie finally told Tao about him and Nick. And Tao was very hurt by the fact that he was the last one to know. And Charlie also revealed to Tao that potentially Tao is the reason why Charlie got outed way back when. So Tao was upset, Charlie was upset. It was bad. It was bad stuff. So then the next day, Charlie was so upset that he didn't eat anything. He ended up passing out at the Louvre. And luckily Nick had packed a boyfriend croissant for Charlie to enjoy, even though it was very dry after 3 hours in his backpack. And then Charlie felt revitalized. They started walking around. Nick got a call from his dad and spoke French fluently, because he's fluent in French, as we know. And Charlie was all of us very pleased to hear Mr. Nick Nelson speaking fluent French. And they did some flirting, and it ended with a beardy security guard standing threateningly above them, and Nick and Charlie running for their lives. That is where we left off last time. So now we're going to continue and see what comes next. Oh, Darla's sleeping on the chair. Yeah, it's kitty sleepy time. Because they have to save up energy so that they can be awake at 3 o'clock in the morning. Alright, so we've run from the security guard, and Charlie says, "Anyway, what did your dad want? I can't believe I didn't know he was French." And they're walking upstairs, and Nick says, "Oh yeah, I wanted to try and meet up with him, but he said he's too busy with work." And Charlie says, "That sucks." Nick says, "Yeah, he's not the most reliable, but look, that's him." So here we have a very adorable picture of cute little child Nick Nelson being held by his mustachioed papa. And Nick says, "He's still my dad, you know? I wanted to tell him about you in person." And Charlie puts his hand on Nick's shoulder. "That can still happen eventually. It doesn't have to happen on this trip." And Nick says, "Yeah, you're right. I'm kind of glad it doesn't happen on this trip, because it doesn't happen on this trip, we get to have a glorious scene later with just absolute dinner time chaos and Tori being a badass. So we'll look forward to that." So Charlie says, "This has been stressing you out. You should have told me about it." And Nick looks kind of regretful, sorrowful. "Yeah, I didn't want to make you worry." And they both laugh. And Nick says, "I guess we've both been keeping some stuff to ourselves." And Charlie says, "Haha, yeah." And Charlie says, "How about we both promise to actually talk to each other when we've got shit going on?" Nick says, "Deal." And so if you belong to Alice's Patreon, you will know that one thing that is very difficult for Alice is drawing buildings. So the most recent comics have been showing a lot of building facades, and every single update has been the buildings. So I see this panel with new eyes, knowing that it must have been this whole section must have just been a terror to draw. So well done, Alice. We have Nick and Charlie standing together, looking out, and Charlie looking over at Nick, and Nick saying, "What?" Aw, and Charlie hugs him, and Nick gives him a big ol' Nick Nelson hug in return. And we have, "I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you." And we don't know who is thinking this, but I mean, obviously they're both thinking it. I do wonder if we are going to get the I love you in season 3, or if that's something that's going to wait until season 4, because yeah, like when we get to it, it's amazing. Okay, so we have Mr. Ajayi saying, "Okay, back on the coach, everyone." Off they go, getting back on the bus. There goes Charlie and Nick right behind him, and there's Tao, looking very sweat droppy, and Aled being like, hmm? And then he whispers something in Nick's ear. Whisper, whisper, whisper. That's what whispering sounds like, in case you didn't know. Nick very quickly sits with Aled. So well done, Aled and Nick, joining forces to make sure that Charlie and Tao have a chance to talk to each other. Charlie looks at Tao. Tao gives a little smile, shifts over so Charlie can sit down with his backpack. And then Tao looks really worried and says, "Hey, I heard you passed out. Are you okay?" And Charlie says, "Oh, yeah, I just hadn't eaten enough, I think." And Tao says, "But you feel better now?" And Charlie says, "Yeah, I had a croissant and then a sandwich and a bit after that. And then, I cannot read today. Yeah, I had a sandwich and then, no, my God." My brain. Okay, I've been filling out job applications all day and like studying up on editing and grammar and SEO and all these different things that would be helpful. So my brain is not in a reading place, but we're going to do our best. So Charlie says, "Yeah, I had a croissant and then a sandwich a bit after that, so yeah, I'm good." Okay, so he did eat Mr. Ajayi's sandwich. He didn't just eat Nick's boyfriend croissant, which the more I say it, the more it sounds like a really dirty euphemism for something, but I promise it's not what I mean.
Oh my.
So Tao says, "Good." And then there's a moment of silence. And then they both, "Sorry for reacting badly yesterday." "No, it's not your fault." It is my fault. And this moment kind of reminds me of Charlie and Tao apologizing to each other in episode 8 of the show, where they're both just like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't have, I'm so..."
I'm so
No,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
I should have been a better friend, and I've been kind of
I shouldn't have
distracted
gotten
by
angry at you.
So Tao says, "I feel horrible about fucking up last year, but I shouldn't pass that guilt on to you. I made a really stupid, idiotic mistake, and you suffered really badly because of it." I wonder if Nick and Aled are listening. I'm sure they are. And Tao says, "I don't think I even understood how hard it must have been for you to come out to me. So I will be a better friend and less of an idiot, I promise." Oh, and Charlie's smiling. "Okay." And Tao says, "Also, I am genuinely really happy for you. Your crush on him was extreme." And Charlie says, "Extreme?" And Nick's like, ding, ding. Nick turns around. "Are you talking about me?" So this kind of echoes what we see in the show from Elle, where at the Milkshake Cafe, Elle talks about all Charlie's pining and embarrasses him in front of Nick.
I'm so happy for you. I mean, I'm happy for you too, but you didn't have to witness all the months of intense pining.
But in this case, it's Tao doing it. So Nick says, "Are you talking about me?" And Tao says, "I was just saying that Charlie's crush on you was really extreme." And Charlie is covering his face. "Oh, shut up." And Tao says, "It was like Twilight levels of pining." And that is some pining. That is some pining right there. And Charlie says, "Stop revealing what a loser I am." And Nick just has a little heart, and Aled is sitting there smiling. Okay, so Charlie says, "At least I had the guts to actually tell Nick I liked him, unlike you and Elle." And Tao, blank face for a second, then looks away blushing. "Well, actually..." And Charlie, a massive grin. "What? Did something happen?" And Tao covers his face. "We kissed earlier in the Louvre." And Charlie says, "What?" And we've got exclamation points from Nick and a question mark from Aled. And Charlie gives Tao a lovely hug with his hand on his face. He's like, "I'm so proud of you." Although Charlie, I mean, if you knew, Elle was the one who initiated the kiss, so Tao didn't do anything really except kiss her back. But nonetheless, we can still be proud of him. And Tao says, "Shut up." And Aled says, "You kissed?" And Nick says, "I need the details." And Charlie says, "Does this mean you're dating?" And Tao's like, "Leave me alone." Yeah, I mean, Tao, especially comics Tao, strikes me as a very private person. It's pretty clear that he does not want to talk about this kind of thing, but, you gotta ask these things when you're friends with someone and they reveal that they've kissed someone. I mean, it's your job as friends. Okay, so moving on to Paris Day 5. We're over the hump. We're over the difficult hill, and it's all smooth sailing from here. Or is it? It is. So Charlie wakes up, he's stretching, and Tao's yawning. Charlie looks over at Nick, who's sleeping peacefully like an angel. If do angels sleep? I don't know. And so Tao sits up in bed and sees the bruise on Charlie's neck and has a moment of revelation and says, "That actually is a love bite, isn't it? Like everyone's been saying." And this wakes Nick up from a dead sleep, and both of them are like sweat drop, blush, ... And Tao says, "Why didn't you just borrow some makeup from the girls?" And Nick and Charlie both have a moment of like, did not think of that. So then half an hour later, we have Darcy applying some foundation or cover-up or something to Charlie's love bite and saying, "My skin's a bit lighter than yours, but this'll probs be fine." And Elle says, "You could mix it with some of mine." And Darcy says, "Yeah, that might work." And we have just the whole crowd of guys in the background just watching this in awe while Elle and Darcy and Tara and Sahar look on. So Tara says, "How did this even happen? Kind of a bad time to get a love bite." And Nick's like, "It's my fault." And Charlie says, "No, it was both our faults." And Darcy says, "Kinda TMI, guys." And then done. And Charlie says, "Can you see it?" And Nick says, "Nope." And Tao says, "Well, Charlie, I'm glad you found a boyfriend as idiotic as you." And Charlie says, "Tao." And Nick says, "Haha." So we are at Shakespeare and Company. We have Darcy and Tara and Sahar. Tara looking at a book. We have Elle and Tao chatting in the bookshop. Nick taking a stealthy photo of Charlie, who's holding a book and looking startled. Then we're looking at... I'm gonna embarrass myself. Is it Notre Dame? Is it Notre Dame? Let's check. Notre Dame Cathedral. Yeah, see, I'm not... Oh, poor Notre Dame. Poor Notre Dame. Charlie says, "It's sad we can't see inside." And Nick says, "Yeah." Then we have Nick and Charlie sitting at, I assume, lunch or dinner or something. And Nick asks, "You okay?" And Charlie says, "Yeah, I think so." And Nick says, "So, how about trying some frog's legs?" And Charlie says, no. And here we have Nick having posted the stealthy photo of Charlie with a book. And Nick captions it, "Nerd," as he must do. He has no choice. And Charlie says, "Rude." And Nick says, "Fortunately for you, I like nerds." And Charlie just responds with eyes. And that night, so Charlie pulling Nick along, saying, "Come on, there's a little alcove by the vending machines." And Nick says, "Did you see this place and think, yep, me and Nick are going to make out there?" And Charlie says, "Maybe." And Nick leans in. It's been a very long time since they've kissed, but just as they're about to, both of them stop because they hear chatter, 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 chatter. And Charlie peeks around the corner to see Mr. Ajayi and Mr. Farouk. And, both of them... ... when they see that Charlie and Nick are hiding out in the alcove by the snack machine. And Mr. Farouk says, "It's past 11, boys. You should be in your room." And Nick says, "But sir, we were just..." He says, "Off you go, Mr. Farouk." So Nick and Charlie heading back to the room, and Mr. Ajayi says, "You can let them off? They're clearly dating." And Mr. Farouk just oblivious, "They're dating?" And Mr. Ajayi... ... So in the comics, of course, Mr. Ajayi is not as close to Charlie. He doesn't have that mentor-student relationship that they have in the show. I mean, I want to say that Mr. Ajayi teaches at Higgs in the comics, and Mr. Farouk teaches at Truum. I want to say that's the case. But even so, barely knowing these guys, he's immediately like, yeah, these two are clearly a couple. So... Okay, so we have a little beep boop on the snack machine. And Mr. Ajayi says, "Seems fairly obvious to me. I'm pretty sure I did the exact same thing at that age, sneaking around like that with a boy." And Mr. Farouk looks at him and looks away, kind of sad. And Mr. Ajayi says, "Come on, you never snuck off with a boy on a school trip when you were their age?" And Mr. Farouk says, Well, when you don't come to terms with your sexuality until your mid-20s, you tend to miss out on all those beautiful gay teenage experiences. And yeah, I mean, I relate. Because, yeah, I had no idea. I did not realize that I was anything but straight until I was in college. So, like, my whole high school experience, just no idea. So, I did not get to have any beautiful gay teenage experiences, sadly. Mr. Ajayi says, that recent? You're only 26, right? And Mr. Farouk says, yep. Oh my god, that's so young. That's so young. Mr. Farouk grabs his snack from the snack machine and says, probably a bit late for me to have any youthful moments of discovery. And Mr. Ajayi, grabbing his own snack, I don't think there's an age limit on those, to be honest. And Mr. Farouk says, ha, you flirting with me? Clearly joking, and Mr. Ajayi stands up and is like, maybe. And then says, we better head back to our room, Come on. And off he goes. Oh, the cat has jumped down, so I may reclaim my chair. So Mr. Farouk with the ... watching Mr. Ajayi go. Yeah, I am really looking forward to the love story of Mr. Farouk and Mr. Ajayi. I don't know how much screen time they're going to get because, you know, obviously the focus is on the teens, but still, it would be very nice to see. And I also really hope that we get to see Ms. Singh and her wife, or at least some allusion to the fact that she is married to a woman, so we'll see what happens. Okay, so Paris, day 6. Oh, it's the day. It's Tara's birthday, and we know what that means. Well, maybe if you've read this before, you know what it means. We're at breakfast at the hotel, and everyone is singing "Happy Birthday to You," and we have a little 16 balloon, and Tara saying, "I'm literally so embarrassed right now." And I love Darcy's shirt with the little ghosts on it. A+, I would wear that. So Mr. Ajayi says, okay, Higgs and Shroom students, quiet please. Chatter, 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 chatter. And Mr. Farouk, quiet. And once again, they go silent. And Mr. Ajayi says, thank you, Mr. Farouk. Now, everyone, I know it's our last full day here in Paris, and it's Tara's birthday. So I know you might all want to have a little party tonight in your rooms. Well, we're not going to ban that, but please make sure that you're being safe, and please keep the noise down, okay? And Darcy is just absolutely grinning. A party! And Nick says, a party? And we have Harry looking a little sad, and Elle saying, yay! And Mr. Farouk with just like a lightning strike. You can buy snacks and drinks while we're out today, but if I catch anyone with alcohol, there will be dire consequences, okay? And Darcy immediately goes narrow-eyed. And Tara says, Darcy, how would you even get alcohol? And she says, you'll see, Jonesy. You'll see. And Tara says, he literally just said we're not allowed. You'll see. Oh, Darcy. Okay, so here we are at the Arc de Triomphe. And Nick saying, what is it actually for? And Charlie saying, no idea. And Darcy taking a picture. And then we're walking down the street. And Nick posted a picture of him with his arm around Charlie, both of them looking blushy and happy. And here's Nick licking some ice cream. And Charlie captioning it, caught in the act. And Nick says, so glad I can rely on you to take flattering photos of me. And Charlie says, this is revenge for the nerd photo. And Nick says, touche. Slipping a little French in there, perhaps because he knows how it affects Charlie. So here we are, the whole gang is eating pizza. Oh, I want pizza. Nick says, do you want to go eat somewhere quieter? And Charlie says, yeah, okay. So yeah, I love this. Like, Nick does not make a big deal out of it, but he notices that Charlie isn't really eating, and he just quietly is like, hey, do you wanna go eat somewhere else? And Charlie, yeah. Okay, so they're sitting on the steps alone, and Nick says, here, I'll share with you. Aw, and so they share some pizza, and Charlie eats because he feels very comfortable and safe with Nicholas Nelson. So we have Tara Jones and 39 others. So Tara says, casual party in my room at 9 p.m., room 317. Everyone's welcome. Everyone asterisk except Harry Green. And you can wear PJs. And Darcy says, please bring snacks if you have any, especially if you have Pringles. Also, I have vodka. So Katie says, yes, we'll be there. And Tom says, can't wait. And Alina says, oh my god, Darcy, how did you get vodka? And Darcy says, I have my ways. And Jared says, yee, let's get lit. And Charlie says, we'll be there. So how did Darcy get vodka? I mean, she doesn't speak French. She's underage. I'm not sure how she managed it, but she is Darcy, and she does indeed have her ways. She talked some French person into going in and buying it for her, but the world will never know. Unless we see it in the show, and then we'll know. So that night, we have Tao and Aled getting ready to go, and Tao saying, you coming? And Charlie says, you go ahead, we'll meet you there. Okay. So Nick pulling on his socks, Charlie pulling on his sweatshirt, and the door closes. And, oh, here we go. Charlie's hoodie theft begins. And Charlie says, you sure you don't mind me borrowing this? And Nick's saying, as long as you don't steal it like the other three you've borrowed. I actually quite like that one. And Charlie says, I didn't steal them. I just forgot to give them back. Yeah, sure, Charlie. Nobody believes that. So Charlie looking at himself in the mirror, Nick looking at Charlie, and then Nick comes up behind him and just, like, squishes his dimples with his fingers. And Charlie says, excuse me, those are my dimples. And then Nick just wraps his arms around Charlie and buries his face in Charlie's shoulder. And Charlie says, oh, hi. What are you doing? And Nick says, recharging. Aww. So we have some nuzzling going on. And Charlie says, we could stay here for a bit. And Nick wraps his arms around him and says, oh yeah? Why is that? And Charlie says, because we haven't kissed in like 4 days. And they're almost kissing as Nick says, did you miss me? And Charlie says, well, it's not like you weren't here. And then they kiss with lots of swirlies and flowers floating around them. And then Charlie just pulls Nick down towards him. And Nick is like, Charlie. And Charlie says, more, please. And Nick says, more. And then he just drops Charlie on the floor with a thump. And Charlie says, hey. And Nick says, come on, we said we'd go to Tara's party, didn't we? And Charlie looking very irritated with a ... Nick says, teasing you is so fun. Charlie says, I actually hate you. And Nick says, nah, you like me. I really don't. I love this face of Nick's, too. He looks so smug and just somewhat evil. Knock, knock, knocking on room 317. And Tara answers the door in her PJs and says, hey, boys. And here's Darcy wearing a party hat with a shirt that says yes. That's very Darcy, just saying yes to everything. And Charlie says, what the hell? Why is your room massive? And Tara says, we got lucky? Okay, so we have this update may trigger some people to see a description of the triggering material. Please scroll down to the update notes. I think the trigger warning on this one is alcohol, if I recall correctly. Nick says, a balcony? Yeah, wow, how did they get this room? Nick and Charlie and Tao and Aled have this very small room with no balcony, and they have a massive room with a balcony, but they take a group shot together. We have Nick and Charlie talking to Aled, laughing, and people chanting, chug, chug, chug. And Tara saying, it's literally just lemonade, while Darcy chugs it. And then we have Tao and Elle kissing in the bathroom with Elle's glasses off. And Charlie walks in, and both of them are very blushy. And Elle very hurriedly puts her glasses back on. And Tao chases him out, saying, get out! And Charlie says, I need to pee. Too bad. Use a lock. Leave. So Nick says, I thought you were going to the loo. And Charlie just laughs. And Elle and Tao having a chuckle together. All right, so everyone's having a lovely time at the party. Nick and Charlie are sitting next to each other. Their fingers brush. Charlie whispers something to Nick. And then the two of them, holding hands, go out to the balcony. And they sit together. I really love this picture of them sitting on the balcony with just like the Paris street and the moon and the stars. It's very beautiful and very romantic. And they're in their socks, whispering together and drinking their drinks and giggling and whispering and giggling. So then Darcy, in a move that Tori Spring herself would very much appreciate, appears out the side door of the balcony and says, ahem, sorry to interrupt your very obvious flirting, but it's alcohol time. And there she is with her bottle of vodka. And Nick says, what actually is it? And Darcy says, vodka. You just pour it in your lemonade. And Charlie says, is it gross? And Darcy with a smile, yep. And Nick and Charlie look questioningly at each other. And Charlie says, I'll try some. And Nick's like, are you sure? And Darcy, glug, 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 just pours a ton of it into Charlie's cup. And Charlie says, I just want to see what it tastes like. So off Darcy goes, saying, enjoy. And both Nick and Charlie are looking at the cup of vodka with some ... there. And Charlie says, have you ever drunk before? Nick says, my mom lets me have a beer sometimes, like at Christmas. And Charlie says, lucky, my parents have never let me try it. They're so strict about stuff like that. And yeah, what about you guys? What about you folks? What was your alcohol experience like? So for me, like, I want to say the first time I tried alcohol might have been at a friend's house. I just tried like a sip of beer or something and was like, oh, this is kind of gross actually. And then I tried like a few sips of wine at some point, and then like on my 21st birthday, I was never really into it, and then on my 21st birthday, my friend took me out for drinks, and I had like 3 or 4 sips of wine and then got so sleepy that I couldn't even keep my eyes open. So yeah, it turns out that like alcohol makes me extremely, extremely sleepy. So I was like, well, I can't. This is not doing anything for me. So I just don't drink. I just never got into it. So probably for the best. But yeah, so I've never even tried vodka. Like I've tried beer and I've tried wine and I've tried champagne, and that's all that I've ever had in terms of alcohol. So share your experiences in the comments below. Okay, so yeah, Charlie says, my parents have never let me try it. They're so strict about stuff like that. And Nick says, well, your parents aren't here now. And so Charlie hesitates and then takes a sip. It's like, a look of ultimate disgust. And Nick just losing it, laughing. And Charlie says, literally, why would anyone pay for that? And Nick says, I want to try. He takes a sip and makes the same disgusted face. It tastes like metal. And Charlie also laughing. And Charlie says, maybe you have to learn to like it. And Nick says, that's what my mom says about red wine. So Charlie leans his head on Nick's shoulder and says, oh, well, I don't need to be drunk right now. And Nick says, same. Okay, so a little while later, Nick and Charlie come in, and Charlie has the hood up on his sweatshirt. Well, he has the hood up on Nick's sweatshirt that he's wearing, and his arms folded. This would be me, by the way. Nick saying, how do you get cold so easily? And Charlie says, this is normal. I'm not a human heater like you. And yeah, this is me as well. I get chilled very easily, but I also get hot very easily, so I'm just uncomfortable most of the time. Charlie says, hey, what's going on? And there's a squabble at the door, and like a crowd, and the door is open. And Tara's saying, yeah, well, no homophobes at my birthday party. And Darcy says, yeah, leave. And it's Harry Green. And he says, hang on, look, I just want to talk to Nick and Charlie. And Charlie says, Harry? And Nick says, is his hair different? Charlie says, yeah, less pointy. Huh. I love the implication that, like, Harry's personality matches his hair. So when his hair is at its pointiest, his personality is at its pointiest. And when it flops down and is softer, so is he. All right, so Nick and Charlie go over to the door. Both of them have their arms folded. Nick has his angry face on and says, what do you want? And Harry says, for fuck's sake, calm down. Can we just talk? And Nick looms over him, ... and then starts to close the door. No. But Harry slaps his hand out and says, wait. I wanted to say sorry for all the shit I said at the cinema. It wasn't cool. I know I said some homophobic shit. Honestly, my family's pretty homophobic. But I feel like I know better now, and I won't say shit like that anymore. And Nick says, Charlie, you don't have to listen to this. And Charlie says, what do you want from us? And Harry just smiling with a little question mark. Now, I think it's good that Harry apologized, obviously. I think it's good that he has realized the error in his ways, is now doing things like standing up for Nick and Charlie and apologizing. But the fact that he comes in with this grin on his face, like all he has to do is say sorry, and then all the bullying will just be ignored. I think it's kind of a shit apology anyway, because he's smiling the whole time. He seems absolutely sure that they're just going to forgive him immediately, and he's going to be allowed to come into this awesome party that's going on. Okay, so Charlie says, what do you want from us? Forgiveness? well done. You said all that homophobic stuff to me, but it's okay because you're sorry. I'm glad you've realized the error of your ways, but it's not my job to give you a gold star. Damn right, Charlie. Nick looks surprised, and Harry also looks surprised. And Charlie says, people like you made my life hell last year, and I shouldn't have to forgive anyone for any of it. You don't get to ambush me into forgiving you in front of everyone. One sorry doesn't make up for all the things you said. So congrats on your incredibly difficult realization that gay people actually do have feelings. And have a nice life. And I love how Charlie is just sparkling as he shuts the door. And then he turns around and everyone just cheers. A++ to Mr. Charlie Spring. Yeah, so in the show, obviously, we have the very satisfying moment of Charlie telling off Ben at Sports Day. But this moment is great. So I really hope that we get to see this in the next season, because damn, it's a good scene. You shouldn't have to feel obligated to forgive someone for making your life an absolute hell just because they say sorry once while smiling. Now, I do think, and we do see in the novella, that eventually they're on better terms with Harry, because Harry doesn't just give a bullshit apology and then go back to his old ways. He genuinely changes. So in that case, yes, you may want to forgive someone, but you should never have to feel obligated to relieve someone of the burden of their guilt when they legitimately treated you badly. So, yes, go Charlie. So the whole gang clusters around Charlie. They're so proud of him, and Nick is kind of watching this and thinking about Charlie saying, I started to believe what they were saying. It made me really hate myself. Last year when everything at school was shit. So Nick is thinking back on all the ways that people bullying him really damaged Charlie. And then when Charlie looks back at him, Nick just kind of touches his hand and says, you okay? And Charlie ... And then he smiles. Yeah, saying all that felt good. And Nick, aw. I love any panel where it's just Nick smiling with a heart while looking at Charlie. So they're holding hands, they're squeezing hands, and Charlie says, don't look at me like that. And Nick says, like what? And Charlie says, like you're about to say something stupidly romantic and cheesy. And Nick says, and what if I am? Nick. Okay, so this update may trigger some people. I believe this one is also alcohol. Okay, so Nick starts to say, you're because Charlie covers his mouth. Nick, I will literally die if you say one more cheesy thing. So here comes Darcy with the most evil little smiling face. We're going to play Truth or Dare if you want to join. So everyone chattering in a big old circle, and we spin the bottle, and it lands on Tara, and everybody goes, ooh, like it's an episode of Saved by the Bell. And she gets asked, truth or dare? And Tara says, dare, with no hesitation, because she's a badass. And so a very drunk Darcy, who is literally holding the vodka bottle like she's just been chugging it, says, nice. I dare you to remove a sock using only your teeth. And people go, ooh, oh my god, ew. That's so hard, oh my god. And Tara just says, how tame. So Tara successfully, without even blinking, successfully removes the sock from her foot using only her teeth, and then hits Darcy over the head with it, saying, haha, whap. The bottle's next selection is Tao. And Elle saying, oh no, truth or dare? And Tao says, well, there's no way I'm doing a dare, so truth. And the person says, have you kissed someone in this room? And Elle and Tao are both, like, suddenly wide-eyed and blushing and looking away from each other as Tao says, yes. And everyone's like, ooh, oh my god, who was it? Oh, he's blushing so much. And in answer to who was it, Tao says, that wasn't the question. Though, I mean, really, guys, like, come on. Is it not clear who he has kissed? Okay, so the bottle gets spun around, and it lands on Charlie. And Charlie says, obviously dare. And the person says, I dare you to kiss James. We have a helpful little arrow pointing at James. And Nick immediately gets a sweat drop and looks kind of stressed. And Charlie looks horrified and says, "What?" And James is like, "I'm up for it, haha." James, a good sport here. And they say, "You have to do it. That's the dare. Go on. It's just one little kiss." And they're pushing James. "Come on, Charlie. He's a good kisser." And James says, "Haha, shut up." And James says, "I'm not gay, so it's just for a dare." And Charlie, and Nick looks so upset. And Charlie's just like, no, I don't want to." And James, to his credit, immediately backs off. He retreats very quickly and says, "Okay, that's fine. I didn't care anyway, so haha." Now, he does sound a little disappointed. Like, is it just me? Like, he seems a little disappointed. So I will be very interested to see how they portray this in the show. If we'll get more development from James, if we'll see more of him than just the scene, if there's going to be any implication that he might be queer, because could be, who knows? But yeah, we'll see what happens. All right, so then the person who dared Charlie says, "Okay, but you have to do a truth instead." And Charlie says, "Fine." And this person says, "Who gave you the love bite?" So, like, so there's a ... And Tara says, "Hey, that's not cool." And Elle says, "Yeah, that's too far." And Charlie says, Tal says, "You don't have to answer that." And Darcy, well, what was the question? So Darcy, very drunk, and Ala just looking ... looking very serious. And Charlie says, "Someone on the trip?" And we have general chaos breaking out. "Come on, that's not an answer. That's too personal. Someone could get outed." "Yeah. What's the point in truth or dare if we're allowed to keep secrets? It's not like anyone here will tell anyone." "Yeah, right. Someone will. Just ask something else." So we have all this squabbling going on, and Nick looks over at Charlie, who's looking kind of miserable, and Nick just has this epiphany moment where his eyes widen, and he knows this is the time. So he says, "I know who it was," and there is just absolute silence. And Charlie looks over at him really quickly, and Nick questioning with his eyes like, "Is it okay?" And Charlie ... and then super happy smile, nods, and Nick reaches over and takes Charlie's hand and says, "Me, we're dating." There are so many things I am looking forward to in the next season. This is number one. Nick Nelson coming out as Charlie's boyfriend to a group of their peers, being happy about it, feeling comfortable. A+++. Absolutely, hands down, the thing that I'm most looking forward to in the next season. So there is absolute shock from everyone. And then someone says, "Oh my God, I knew it." "Don't say that. That's so rude." "But we were saying the other day." "Shh, Nick, I didn't know you were gay." And Nick says, "I'm bi, actually, but yeah." "Aw, you two are so cute together." Thanks." And then on Charlie's side, "Really? How long have you been going out?" And Charlie says, "A few months." "That's so crazy. I never would have guessed Nick was gay. Did you turn him gay?" And Charlie says, "No, he's bi." "So that's why you wouldn't kiss James." One of the folks says, "Do you want us to keep it a secret?" And they look at each other, and Charlie says, "We're okay with being out." Nick says, "We haven't been keeping it that secret anyway." And then Darcy says, "Ahem. I hate to interrupt this very lovely moment, but I feel really ill." And she looks really ill. Who could have foreseen that drinking a ton of vodka as a 15 or 16-year-old would end in feeling really sick? Who could have known? So we have sweat drops and ... from Nick and Charlie and Tao and Elle, and then Tara just says, "I knew it." And then we have Tara rushing down the hallway with Darcy. "Mr. Farouk!" She doesn't run Darcy to the bathroom so she can throw up. She takes her directly to Mr. Farouk. So we have hurried, knock, 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 knock. And Mr. Farouk opens the door. "What?" And Tara says, "Sir, Darcy feels super ill. She feels like she's going to be sick. I think she might have food poisoning or something." And Mr. Farouk, why did I go into teaching? They have her in Mr. Ajayi and Mr. Farouk's room, and Mr. Farouk saying, "I'm going to pretend I believe you have food poisoning." And Mr. Ajayi being very, very kind, "Okay, just sit there and take a deep breath. I'll find a bag just in case." and blah, Darcy just throws up all over the bed while Mr. Ajayi is fetching a bag. And both Mr. Ajayi and Mr. Farouk look very stunned. And then Mr. Farouk just yells, "I want everyone out except Tara and Darcy. Everyone else, get back to your rooms now. Party's over, everyone." We have, "Aw, no." Charlie asking Tao, "You coming back to our room?" And Tao says, "I was going to stay here. Elle suggested we have a big sleepover." And Charlie says, "Oh, I don't know. I'm kind of tired." And Nick says, "And I'm large. I need lots of bed space." And Charlie says, "We'll see you in the morning." And we have Tao with narrow eyes and Alid with kind of a wobbly smile. Ba-bing. And Tao says, "Well, no having sex in our room." And Charlie's like, "What?" And Nick says, "What?" And Alid and Tao walk away. All right, and that's where we're going to end it for now, because that's a good place to end it, because we've done quite a few chapters here. But yeah, so a lot of good stuff in this part. As I said, I love Charlie telling off Harry. I love Nick coming out to everybody. And even though it's terrible, I love Darcy drinking too much and getting ill, and just Mr. Farouk being like, why is this happening to me? So yeah, there is so much good stuff in this section. And in general, just like the Paris trip is probably my favorite part of the comics. There's just so much good stuff that happens. We get to see all the characters. Everybody's together. There's stuff happening with Nick and Charlie, stuff happening with Tao and Elle. It's just good times all around. So yeah. All right, well, that is all for the comics part. So now I did want to say, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, some recent hardship. Hey, Darla. What's up, my dear? Yeah, so some recent hardship has afflicted me, unfortunately, where very recently and suddenly became unemployed. And so am scrambling to get a new job. People in this community have been absolutely amazing with donating to my GoFundMe and just in general being supportive and wonderful and amazing. So thank you so much. And I do want to say a personal thank you to everyone who has donated as I drop all the stuff from out of my notebook. So prepare yourselves. And as always, I'm so sorry if I butcher your name. I probably will do that, so I'm sorry. Just pretend that I pronounced it correctly. Okay, so here are the GoFundMe donations that I have received recently. There are a lot. You guys are amazing. So we have Andre Perrin, $100. Joanna Weiberg Duna, $50. Anonymous, $50. Tom Gibson, $500. Fiona Fitzsimmons, $100. Anonymous, $20. Anonymous, $100. Anonymous, $30. Renee, $200. Anonymous, $85. Anonymous, $200. Anonymous, $30. Jamie A., $100. Catherine M. Holm, $100. Kate Fitzgerald, $10. Paul Ziegler, $100. Sophia Gagnon, I'm so sorry, $50. Wiebke Kempa, $10. Kevin Gervais, $100. Gregory Hobson, $20. Natalie Shadot, $100. And Ann Curry, $10. And also, between me filming the video and editing the video, we've also had Ann Curry. I said Ann Curry. We've also had Anonymous, $50. Kent Smither, $50. And Anonymous, $100. So, wow. And also Kelly Walker, who sent an incredible amount to my PayPal to avoid the GoFundMe transaction fees. And just like, how did I ever get so lucky as to have you folks in my life? Like, I cannot tell you how much this helps me and how much easier it will make the transition of like being let go from my job 2 weeks before I have major surgery. So like, the good news is my boss is working with me in terms of my last day and is, giving me a little more time on the payroll so that I might have a chance to find a job and not have enough money to pay my bills and buy cat food. But yeah, it's a very scary time. and I was very, very down, but now you guys have completely turned it around, and yeah, so I can never thank you guys enough for your support and for being so incredibly kind when I'm just a random person on the internet. So thank you so much. Along those lines, thank you so much to our patrons, and a special shout out to our Nick Nelson members, Kelly Walker, Paul Z, and brand new Nick Nelson member, Kent Smither. But yeah, all of the Patreon members are always amazing and make it so I have a little extra income every month, and it means a lot. It really helps out. And I know I haven't always been the best at, putting extra content on Patreon. And a lot of you have said, like, multiple times, don't worry about it, but I still feel bad. I want to give you guys some extra content. So I did start today a new thing on Patreon where every day, or mostly every day, we're going to have a daily Darla. So if you are a member of the Patreon, you'll get to see a picture or a video of Darla or Benny or both every single day that I remember to do it. So, I mean, that's something that I can do. Maybe it's not the kind of content that people are looking for, but it's something. And of course, patrons will continue to get early access to videos, and occasionally we'll do like discussion posts, and I often have like behind the scenes stuff, excerpts from my books and things like that. So there is fun to be had on Patreon. So if you feel like joining us, please do. And I was going to say, like, another way to support me. Oh, God, Darla, what is she? Hold on. Look at this. What is it? Yeah, another way that you can support me is literally just by watching my videos and letting the ads play. That's another way that you can support me, because I get ad revenue. So that's something you can do for absolutely nothing. But yeah, even if you do nothing, even if all you do is just watch this video, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being wonderful, because you're all wonderful. Okay. All right, this video has gotten very long. I started recording it almost an hour ago, so I'm going to stop. And yeah, I hope all of you are having an amazing, amazing day or night, or whatever time of day it may happen to be, and I will see you next time. So